Welcome back. 7:55 is real. Sorry, we're a little late, folks. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us good ratings and all that, and check our sponsors. Eric, I don't know if you watched the game on Wednesday against the Red Sox, but it was the Braves' first walk-off of the year, and we got so used to those that it seemed like it was just the de rigueur, and it was what the Braves were going to do. I mean, because they had so many walk-offs or last-at-bat wins or comebacks. So to see them do it, it reminded you that it's been a while since they did it. What can that do? Orlando Arcia hit a 2-run walk-off like that. What can that do for a team, especially going into that off day, salvaging a split with the Red Sox? I mean, the guys said that maybe this would be something that, that could really get everybody going.
I kind of hate when it comes before an off day, because it's almost like off days seem to always reset a lot of things. You're in a slump, you get an off day. It's like, all right, you forget about everything and move on. I always like when you get a big win to play the next day.
Yeah.
But regardless, this team needs to start winning games late. That's kind of what they've been known for. And anytime you get a walk-off, even just the celebration itself is just so fun for the team. And
yeah,
what I love about it though is the guy that hit it is one of the guys that you're going to have to answer questions why they're on the team or what's this guy doing.
Yeah.
When the guys that are on the bottom of the roster start contributing and getting big hits, and those are guys that your teammates are rooting for because they see him putting in the work all year long, right? And even if you're not paying attention to stuff as a player, you still hear the comments or hear certain reporters asking questions of this guy's roster spot, that guy's roster spot. What are you going to do if guys are earning their roster spot? And when a guy does that, that's been, he hadn't even hit in a week.
Yeah.
It gets 3 hits with a walk-off. You can't be happier than you are for that teammate. And it's like its own special celebration just for that guy's career and what that meant to him. I just thought it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, you mentioned not only was it his first their first walk-off win or their first win in their final at bat, because that was becoming their MO under Snit, was to come back and win in your final at bat. Now, what that means, because some people think that final at bat means winning on a walk-off. No, winning your final at bat can be you score the winning run in the top of the ninth if you're on the road, or in the bottom of the ninth if you're at home, or you score the winning run in the bottom of the eighth at home, and the other team doesn't score in the top of the ninth. So that's your final at bat.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. So that's what that is. That's the first walk. That's their first win in their final at bat this year, and that was becoming the norm for these guys. It felt like for about 3 or 4 years. It was also just the third time in 19 games this year the Braves won after their opponent scored first in a game. Gosh. They could score 1 run in the first inning. The Braves had only won twice in 18 games in those, which is kind of. Conversely, they are 12-1 when they score first. So, I mean, that's the other side of that. But it's kind of bad when the die is set in the first inning. If a team scores a run, you have like no games where you could even think of you came back during the year. So maybe they start to get things turned around in that regard. But
I think that's kind of been a luxury this team's had is when you're getting those comeback wins all the time.
Yeah,
there's no pressure early. Right. Because you're just thinking, well, we all step up. It's what we do. You have a bad at bat in third. It's okay. You put it behind you. But when you're not making those comebacks, then you start pressing earlier and earlier in the game. And, anytime in baseball that you're pressing, things don't usually go well. So I think it's good. That's when things turned around last year, is that when they started making those big late wins, like that comeback in St. Louis, things like that happen, takes the pressure off the offense. Then you get bases loaded in the 4th inning and you come up and you don't feel like you have to be a hero or do anything special. It's like, if I don't get a knock here, the next guy will. And if we don't do it this inning, we're doing it the next inning. But it gets harder and harder to have that mindset when you keep coming up short, so that pressure builds. So I think anytime they get these late wins, they kind of just build the momentum and it'll take pressure off the offense.
They trailed 3-0 going in the bottom of the 3rd inning Wednesday. And then the Braves got 3 runs in that 3rd inning on a Matt Olson RBI double off the wall. Yep. And that was after a 2-run homer by Travis Demeritte. Demeritte has really been a big story early in the season, or it's only been the last 3 weeks, I think. But this is a guy that's, he's a former top prospect and really had become a young journeyman in that he's bounced around, from AAA to the majors, but then to Detroit, gets traded. gets picked up on waivers. I mean, all signs were pointing to this guy being a journeyman at the age of 27. But he's kind of playing right now like he might be able to carve out a spot with the Braves, even if it's as a fourth outfielder, that kind of thing. He's not great in the field, but he's made a couple of nice plays in the field. He gets bad jumps and makes up for them with athleticism, but he's really hit. He's got some big hits.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of what happens in a guy's career if you don't come up, because he was a prospect.
Yeah.
But he didn't come up and hit right away. He didn't come up and play well right away. It's why there's so much pressure on guys not to get sent back to AAA. And why it's so important for them to do well immediately and not ride that bus. Because every time you jump on that thing and go up and down, you're wondering if this is going to be my last chance. Or you come up and you're wondering if I have a bad week or here or there, am I getting sent down again? Because it's always in the back of your head, at least until you get to arbitration. So, luckily for him, he came up and got off to a good start. And that good start by itself might give him the confidence and take enough pressure off where he can actually ride this into a career at this point. Because it's not like he didn't have the talent.
Yeah. Yeah. And through all that failure and through all dealing with a lot of different coaches at, AAA with the Braves, majors with the Braves, but before that, AAA and majors with the Tigers, you run across a lot of guys. I mean, you run across Miggy Cabrera when you're playing with the Tigers. I mean, you run across a lot of guys, and somewhere on the line you've talked about one guy might say something, but he's made some adjustments, and he's hitting. He didn't hit like this in the past. If you look at his numbers, he was a big strikeout guy who did not hit for a high average in the majors at all in his limited time. But he really looks to me, I mean, what he's doing in the box this year does not look fluky to me at all.
No, I mean, that ball he hit the other day was stroked. Yeah. Have you asked him about that? Kind of what clicked or what he feels like is different?
Well, he spoke about it in general terms that he's made some adjustments in his approach and in the box, but he didn't talk any specifics really. But he's learned a lot of over the years of failing and getting sent down and all that, and talking to different coaches. But I mean, he's killed it in AAA. So this is the first time he's really been able to apply it though in the big leagues and have that same kind of success. So. Good for him. He's a good dude. He's from here. He's from the area. Yeah. So he's got a lot of fans down here. So we'll see. But he's getting a chance to play a lot because of the injuries. Eddie Rosario is not going to be back for another couple of months. So he's going to get a lot of chance to play. And the trade deadline is not till July. So not looking for any significant outfielders to be moved for that. And if he keeps hitting like this, there's no real urgency for the Braves to make a move in the outfield. Plus, they don't want to do that because they got Drew Waters knocking at the door if he can stay healthy. And then behind him, Michael Harris is in AA, and he's only a phone call away. He could go to AAA and get called up at some point if they need him. So, they want to go out and spend a lot of money on another outfielder, especially one that's signed beyond this year.
Yeah, well, it's just huge that Travis has played like that because it doesn't put him in a position where they have to try to make a move too soon or anything like that. And that's why that depth is so huge in the first place. But I'm happy for him. I mean, I know what it's like to struggle and be on that up and down and wondering if you got it and everything like that. It must just feel great for him to be playing the way he is and feel like he's finally establishing himself as a big leaguer.
And doing it here in Atlanta,
in Atlanta
he's got
too.
Family and friends nearby. It's different than playing in Detroit, A lot of support for him here.
Yeah.
It gave him the first walk-off win. It also was a reprieve from, they have been dominated by the AL the last couple of years. It has been weird. Before that win, the Braves were 6-15 in interleague games since the beginning of last year. And here's the weird one. 1-10 at Truist Park. That's hard to do, man. For a team that won the World Series. 1-9 last year against American League teams at home.
I don't, these are the things that I just don't have any input on. It just doesn't make sense.
And they play a tough division, in the AL. So, it can happen. But, man, Boston has been a tough matchup for them in recent years. So the Yankees and the Blue Jays just killed them last year. Remember, they killed them down in Florida when the games were in Dunedin.
Yep.
And that was where Darno got hurt. And they killed them up here.
Yeah, and, it makes sense sometimes before the DH. Like maybe you're just not used to pitching to these real offensive heavy lineups, but everybody's got it now. And the numbers, I mean, it's one of those things that I don't really have an answer for, but it's not like I look at this division and I'm like, there's not many divisions better regardless. I mean, I know that the AL East it's always power heavy, but I don't see any drastic difference even as a player when I pitched in both leagues. If you make a good pitch, they're out. You know, that it's sometimes it's just the AL teams are more manufactured to put up those crooked numbers.
Right.
The NL teams are more strategic, but now everybody's got a DH and everybody's built for power. So I don't have any reason for that.
But last year they weren't. And that's a good point. The Braves weren't built for the DH last year. They'd had it the year before, and they got lucky and they had some depth and they were able to do it. But last year they did not have a designated DH. They've shuffled a bunch of guys into that. And AL teams obviously do. They're built for the DH. So they have a guy specifically, or they have a couple
they
of guys.
They wouldn't get their DH in the NL though, and they still kick their ass. You know, it's like, I don't know. I can't think of the reason for that.
Yeah. Matt Olson leads the majors in doubles with 14. He's tied for third in the NL with 17 extra base hits. That obviously means he's hit only 3 home runs for him. He hit 39, I think, last year, including led the majors in home runs off lefties against lefties. A lot of these, I can think of like 4 or 5 at least that he's hit off the wall. And I think he's a couple of feet away from having 6 or 7 home runs. I think he's going to hit a rash of home runs here pretty quick. His swing looks good.
Do you know what I was thinking as far as the balls go is it's almost like the weather's a factor again.
Yeah.
I think the balls will start flying when it warms up. Whatever they're doing with the humidifiers and stuff, it's making the air grab the ball more. But I think he's probably hit at least 4 that I've seen that I'm like, that was a homer last year.
Yeah.
Even some of his fly balls to the track, honestly. So he might have more. But I think once it warms up, I think those balls will start carrying over. It's not like he's having bad at bats even though his numbers haven't been great since he got off to the hot start, if you look at his overall numbers, they're still great.
Right. And he the ball did carry a lot better, I thought, on this in the last couple of games here.
Yeah.
And because you saw some home runs that landed 10 rows deep that you thought were going to. They weren't going up and then coming straight down at the track like they were in the first few weeks of the season. So that might be a difference in the weather. Who knows? The way baseball tinkers with the ball, they might have told him to turn off the humidors in some places until they figure things out, you know? So the seams might not be causing as much drag. Who knows?
It sucks that you can't trust that.
I still think it had something to do with Charlie Morton's start, the seams on the ball.
Yeah.
You know, if the seams are, if it's causing a different reaction and on balls hit, you know, way up in the air when they catch the drag, you got to think a guy that throws breaking balls all the time, it's going to have some effect on breaking balls.
Oh, for sure. You know, it's going to have an effect on how much you can spin the ball, you know, and grip it, but it's also going to have an effect on how much those seams grip, you know, while they're spinning toward the plate. So, I mean, it changes your whole starting point of every pitch. You know, if you're getting an extra 6 inches of break or missing 6 inches of break, I mean, that's a 12-inch, you know, that's like a foot. You have to gauge where to aim now and the difference of each pitch. So,
and
it doesn't explain to me why they're able to take it. Because you know, it's a lot of his breaking balls that are just a little off, or you know, like a backdoor breaking ball that they don't swing at, or the ones in the dirt. But it explains to me why he'd be a little off with his control.
And it does, and it would explain why he could have the same spin rate, 3,100, better than anybody else in the, you know, almost in baseball, and have like 30 pitches over 3,000 spin rate. But it would explain why you could have the same spin rate and the ball not moving quite as much. It's not quite that huge bend that he had last year, where guys just look silly swinging at, you know, pitch this far off the plate. He's not getting quite that much break I haven't seen this year. And that would help explain it.
Well, so guys had this theory. I play with a lot of guys, and it was always, you know, when you threw a breaking ball, you wanted 4 seams spinning. And then I played with Luke Gregerson, and he threw a 2-seam breaking ball, which means what he lined the spin up so that it was rotating on only 2 seams grabbing. So just the 2 horseshoes, and the other 4 seams were here. Right, not grabbing, and he had a ridiculous slider. And you know, I'd never been taught that, and I asked him about it, and he said, "I think it breaks later." So take that same logic into Charlie's. Charlie's breaking ball might be breaking a little earlier, which earlier break they're going to see a little better. Right. So it could be a bigger break, but a little sloppier. I don't know. I mean, this is just me thinking, just trying to make sense of it. But if it's an earlier break, the hitter has that little extra time to recognize that they could take it, you know. But when you have the ball not gripping, but he puts so much spin on it, eventually it's going to dip that it's breaking later and closer to the plate. Then he gets those swing and misses.
I mean, that would make sense. These are because there's got to be a reason, because people are looking for reasons why Charlie has not had the swing and miss that he had last year when he's throwing at the same velo, basically. I mean, maybe a mile an hour less, but the same for all intents and purposes.
Same spin, same velo.
And still same spin rate. And he's not getting the chase. That would explain, go a long way towards explaining it.
I mean, that's kind of my thought on it, is maybe the seams are gripping too much for him. So it's like he's having it break more out of the zone. So it's not in the zone quite as long to engage him and get him to chase. And if it's breaking earlier, like those seams spinning, it's crazy, because you think like a centimeter would make a difference.
Right.
But if they're just that much bigger, it changes everything.
Sure.
So it could be, this is just me making shit up off the top of my head and trying to think through it, but it could be something to think about.
Yeah. Going back to Arcia, people that really didn't follow the Brewers much when he was up there, but he had some huge hits for the Brewers, including some postseason hits. I mean, they loved him up in Milwaukee. When he left, they were like, why'd we let this guy go? And he comes here and he's a bench guy. Remember, he spent like a month in AAA here before he even got called up. No more than a month, I think a couple months. And then they had some injuries that brought him up, and they put him in the outfield because that's where they had a need last year before they made all the trades in July. So he had never really played. He played like one game in the outfield before they had him play some in the minors so he could bring him up, kind of like Riley that year. Yeah. So, and quite honestly, I think he's better in the outfield than Marcell Ozuna because of the arm. Marcell Ozuna's arm's so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. And he can handle it. Arcia looks fine out there. He's not great, but he's not bad. And he's got a good arm. So he's hitting 355 with a 432 OBP, 949 OPS. It's only 37 plate appearances. But as a DH, he's 6 for 14 with 1,080 OPS in 4 games. He's also started games at third. He's also played third and left field. And here's at least curious. He's got a reverse splits this year. He's a righty. He's got 9 for 18 with a double, a homer, and a 13-13 OPS and 22 plate appearances against righties. Now, that's a small sample size. It could be a couple of pitchers that he just hits well. But that's some nice reverse splits. Last year was more normal, pretty extreme to the other side. So, I don't know. I'd be finding ways, while he's got a hot hand at least, to get him in the lineup a little bit more, especially while Ozuna has struggled so much. Now, Ozuna's still hitting balls hard. And I think he's going to come out of this. He's been hitting balls hard again lately. But I would be finding some ways to get Arcia in the lineup a little bit more. He's only starting 1 out of every 3 games. He started 10 games out of the 31 games, 32 games.
You kind of have to, when a guy, and that's how you work your way into the lineup, and you ride it. When he starts to struggle, it's not like you can't take him out of it.
Right.
But anytime you got a guy swinging the bat really well, I mean, you have to find a way to get that in there. And you have a few guys that you could give a few more days off and just work him into that 8 or 9 spot in the lineup and just see what he does. But, he's never been known for his bat, but to me, he has pretty decent at bats. And if he's not killing you in the field, what's it hurt to mix him in there a few times and give somebody that's, in a 3-day slump, give him a day off. And those resets, that's what I was talking about. Those resets are nice, even for a guy that, there is no day off, but you just give him one and tell him just to shut your brain down for a day.
It's also worth mentioning now, maybe the Braves are talking to Dansby about extension, but I haven't heard anything to that effect. And he's in the last year of a contract, which is usually when a guy gets this far, they go to free agency. I mean, that's the normal. Arcia signed a 2-year deal last year, and he's really team-friendly deal. He's making 1.6 this year, 1.3 next year, and then there's a $2 million club option that only has a $100,000 buyout for 2024. He could always be. We've talked about what they could do in the future if they want a bridge like Grissom, that top shortstop prospect. Arcia can play shortstop, man, well enough to be in the lineup every day if they need him to be.
Yeah,
so
and that's
a possibility if they. And I'm not trying to talk Dansby off the team, because Dansby, in a lot of ways, he adds a lot to this team in a lot of ways, including that defense, obviously. But if they were looking at, it's not like the cupboard's bare if they didn't at a bridge. They don't have to go out and get a guy and pay him $15 million or $20 million.
Well, it's hard to find that for 1 year, if you have this guy that you don't want to block. But, I think it's tough to operate on not blocking prospects. I mean, you see so many come up and fail, and then it's like, now what?
Yeah.
I think it's nice to have It's nice to have a guy like Arcia too that he's accepted not being the guy, not being the starting everyday guy. So you could work someone else in, and it's kind of a chance to give somebody a trial year with, if you have that prospect come up and you don't think he's ready and he's overwhelmed by the big leagues, you think it might be 2 or 3 more years. You can find a decent shortstop on a 2-year deal or 3-year deal. It's hard to find a really good one for one.
That option could be nice too for 2024 because basically you have him for 2 more years if you want him. At a really, really affordable rate.
And when it's that affordable, once your guy's ready that you want to go to, it's not that big a deal to sit him. And
in the interim, you can afford to pay a couple other guys that you might not have if you're paying Dansby $15-20 million next year.
I'm always okay with having a shortstop hitting 240, 250 on the team playing great defense.
Right. Arcia, after the walk-off, kind of asked him how you staying sharp, not playing much, because he played a lot in the past. In the last couple of years, he's had to get used to a limited role. And he had a great answer. He said, you have to be prepared for any situation, whether you're playing or not. And if you're not playing, you have to be out there supporting your teammates, doing everything you can to contribute to the team. But like I said, it's all about preparation. It's about staying ready in the cage, getting your swings in, and being ready for whenever your number's called, like in any situation, like it happened tonight. I think that was another one of these we're seeing some carryover from Kung Fu Panda last year.
Yeah.
Because he really taught a lot of guys, Latin guys especially, a lot of the secrets on how he stayed so sharp pinch hitting. Because remember, he was pinch hitter extraordinaire in the first couple of months of the season. He saved their asses so many games early in the season. And I think a lot of guys just being around him saw, oh, that's how you do it, huh? You go down there at this point of the game, get ready, stick your swings and all that. So,
yep. And he learned from somebody else. Those kind of things need to be passed on. Eric Hinsky was great at that. When guys would get demoted into some role they didn't want to be in, your first tendency is to pout and complain about how hard it is. And it's not about, they realize it's not about them and everything's not catered to them anymore. And it's like, 7th inning, all of a sudden we need you to hit.
Yeah.
And they've been twiddling their thumbs, pouting the whole game, and they go up and punch out. It definitely takes a lot of mental strength and preparation. And the hardest part is just never knowing when your moment's going to be.
Yeah.
And so you prepare for it today. It's like being a reliever, honestly. You prepare for it. You feel great. You're ready. And then the game rolls in a way that they don't need you. It's like, shit. So then you do it the next day. They don't need me. Shit. And so like day 5, you're like, fuck, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
And that's when they call on you to pinch hit. So it's really hard for guys to just always stay in that mode and stay ready when most of the time the opportunity doesn't come. And as soon as you let your guard down, that's when they need you, and you have to be ready, or you're probably going back to AAA or getting released. It's a tough spot to be in and a big adjustment.
And he didn't know he was playing until he got to the ballpark.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
maybe he went out and got hammered the night before. If I'm not playing tomorrow, and then they call your name, and that one game you get this week is you're at your absolute worst.
He said, I wasn't sure if I was playing or not. He said, it's the same either way, though, whether I'm playing or not playing. I'm coming to the ballpark with that same enthusiasm, that same energy. And if I'm in the lineup, I'm going to apply 100% of my energy and effort into being in the lineup. And if I'm not, I'm going to put 100% of my energy and effort into supporting my teammates for the whole game. Yeah. So he's saying the right things, man.
It's just so much easier said than done.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought really big of Ian Anderson to really recover from a rough start early in that game. He really showed something. Ian on Orlando Arcia, by the way, he said, I think it's one of those situations where when he gets in there, he wants to show something. So kind of a right place, right time, and he can get to a fastball. He showed it there. Arcia really can't hit fastballs, man. He's hard to get one past him. And on the walk-off, Ian said, it was exciting. I thought we played a good game, and for it to kind of pay off like that in the 9th, Ozzie gets the hit, and for Arcia to walk it off, it's a good feeling. The guys are excited heading the off day, regroup a little bit, and we got a bunch of games coming up, so hopefully we can carry that over. And also about Demeritte and Arcia being kind of unsung heroes. Are they the kind of guys that could impact the team all season? He said, definitely. They're great guys in the clubhouse. They fit in good. They're the kind of guys that every team needs, that kind of spark plug. They're more than capable of that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. What was Snit talking about? Arcia said it's great because he hasn't been playing a lot. He started off the year getting a few at bats. He hasn't lost his enthusiasm, and he's working the energy and everything. He's a good player. He's got a hit off the closer for the Mets the other day in a pinch hit roll. That was his one pinch hit bat this year. And he said, I'm happy for him. And that walk-off win, Snit said, I didn't say anything but I was thinking we haven't had one of these yet, a walk-off win. So, yeah, absolutely. It helps a lot for everything that you put into a game like that to come out with a win, especially like that. It means a lot.
Yeah. And those are, those are the things too, that they remember that in July when you're struggling. Yeah. And you have to fill in 2 games and you go 0 for 4 and everybody's like, why is this guy on the team? Well, they've been watching him work and stay ready all year, but they still know how hard it is.
Yeah.
And, it's you put anybody in that role, they're coming in and going 0 for 4 once in a while because it's just so hard to do. But that's part of the stuff that, that's why you get a ring, even if you're released in July. For this walk-off he just hit or staying prepared and doing this stuff and showing guys, like it has an effect on the team.
Yeah, like Kung Fu Panda last year. Did he get a ring? I got asked, did he get a ring? Of course he got a ring.
Yeah, he got a ring.
Even if he hadn't done anything in those bats, he would have got a ring for playing. But he had huge impact on the team early on.
Well, and if they don't win those games, he helped them win those 4 or 5. And now you're looking at it and you're down 9 instead of 5 or wherever you're at when you start that hot streak. It's even a bigger gap to climb out of, and every game counts.
And you might not even have made those moves in July if you'd have been that far back,
Right.
Ian Anderson, I was talking about him. I thought he really, because it looked kind of in the second inning, you're like, oh, here we go again. He gave up a bomb to Trevor Story. The first homer Trevor's hit this year, but it's straight center. I mean, it was a shot. So he gives up a 2-run homer. They're down 2-0 in the second inning. And we've seen this all year when they get behind like that. Like I said, they haven't been able to come back. Then he gives up another run in the third on a double and a J.D. Martinez single. Rafael Devers just killed him. He had a double and then J.D. Martinez single to get. So they're down 3-0. But after that, he was really sharp. I thought Ian was really impressive after that. So he ends up going 5 1/3. Didn't give up any more runs. Gave up 7 hits total. Just 1 walk, which is big because he had, it's had a couple of 4 walk games, and gave the team a chance. And they come back and that's what that has been their key in recent years is hold it there. And then the bullpen was locked down. Mchugh came in, bases loaded, man, got a huge couple of outs. I thought that was he got a benefit of a low strike call because that was out of the zone, but that was huge, man. Paulecki got thrown out. Cora gets thrown out for argument. And they had an argument, but, you're going to get some calls like that go against you and some calls go for you. But I thought Mchugh was huge in that, and everybody that came in after him, too. That was big bullpen performance.
That's another reason why it's so important to get these comeback wins is, if you never want to admit you think about whether we're winning the game or not, or if we can get back in this. But when you've seen your team do it, it's that much more motivating to lock back in when his start wasn't a wash when he gave up 3. But if you're giving up 4 or 5, it's hard to, really good team guys will just be like, I gotta keep it at 4. I got to keep it at 5. But a lot of guys will just throw in the towel. And when your team can get back in it, each guy coming in for the starter too thinks, if I keep it at 3, we're winning this game. Or if I keep it at 2, we're winning this game. But when you never come back, it's kind of
right. What's the point? And you talked about, you answered a reader on the room that we did last week. Somebody was asking about why didn't they use Kenley and Will Smith, and I said, you're not going to use your closer 2 down. Will Smith, what if Will Smith they pitched 2 down and thrown 25 pitches in that game? If he'd thrown 25 pitches, he probably would not have used them the next day.
Right.
He pitched his ass off in this game. So did Mentor, and then Kenley came in and did his thing. So the bullpen was locked down when they had a chance to win this thing, and they did, and they pulled it out, with a walk-off. So,
that's why it's so hard to manage, because you always have to think that, what if Will Smith has even when it's like it's touchy to get a guy an inning of work, because what if it turns into a 32 pitch inning of work?
Yeah.
And now we don't have him today. Right. And we're down 1 or we're tied in the 8th. That's why I don't understand it, because Snit's won 4 straight division titles in a World Series.
Yeah.
But he just gets
the
questioning of his bullpen management in a vacuum, today's decision without thinking about, tomorrow, the next day, the day before, what guys are being used.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me anybody that criticizes Snit actually goes back and looks at the game log and is like, oh, Smith pitched 3 out of 4. He needs a day off. Or if he pitches today, he's down tomorrow. But Snit has to juggle all that all year long. And I don't understand. I mean, He keeps working. They've kept winning. How he gets so much criticism.
Well,
I guess it's the nature of it.
But you as a reliever know that the worst or the most inaccurate second guessing that people do is bullpen management.
Yeah.
And the reason being simple, even the media, we don't know everything that's going on in the bullpen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times a guy might have a little soreness. He might get up to warm up and feels a little soreness. He might get up and feel a twinge, or he might have got up 2 times earlier in the game and warmed up, or he might have warmed up 3 times the night before and be unavailable. And the manager's not going to say before the game. Usually, if you ask them, a lot of times they'll be honest and say, well, he's not available. He's not available. If you don't ask them, they're not going to offer that. So that, in other words, there's a lot of things that go into bullpen management that we never see watching a game on TV at all. So that's why people should never second guess bullpen management without knowing what's going on. I mean, some guy might be dealing with something at home, and he might have just told the guy, "Look, if we don't need me tonight, I'd really rather just take it chill because something happened. This happened. My kid's sick, and I was up all night last night. So if you don't have to use me, if you need me, I can. But if not, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on that we don't know about.
You know how many times when I was playing there, my back was a little flared up, and I wasn't going to pitch that night, but my situation never came up, and you guys never found out. It's like the only time you answer that question and say, no, he was down today was when my situation would come up and, you bring in Mike Dunn or somebody, the guy behind me instead, and you guys go ask Snit, and now they have to tell you.
Right.
But there's stuff all year long where a guy's down or not available and his spot doesn't come up and it's just slid right under the rug. Nobody finds out. And that stuff's going on all year long. So-and-so's shoulders, we're going to try to stay away from them. Mm-hmm. And that's the situation. Like, I'm not going to throw him down 2. If we're up 1 and bases loaded, all right, I got to use Matzik here, but I'm trying not to use him. And there's a lot of those situations where it make perfect sense to keep it at 1 or 2 runs, but we're trying to stay away from this guy and we need somebody else to step up. And that was the thing. When my back would flare up, there'd be 3 days where I wouldn't pitch and my situation didn't come up, and then I'd work through it. And it never got out that I was dealing with something at that time. Yeah. But every time that it'd be the situation where Ryan Howard's coming up in the 7th or 8th and somebody else has to pitch, now it's like, okay, that guy should have been in there. Why isn't he? And then the manager has to, because the manager's not going to just be like, oh, my gut told me this guy was the right guy and make bullshit up. Now he's going to tell you he was down today. Yeah. So he doesn't, but that's how it always seems to come out is there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes or guys you're trying to stay away from that if that situation where that guy would definitely pitch doesn't come up, it never makes its way out there.
I learned that early on because a couple of times people wrote stuff and then I had a manager tell me, why did so-and-so write this guy? And he told me why I didn't use him. This guy's got this stuff going on at home, or this guy's got the show. I'm not going to bring him in if I don't have to use him.
Yeah.
The next 2 weeks, we don't want to use him if we don't have to. If we need to, we will, but we don't want to use him. But people don't just assume that everybody's available for every situation.
Yep.
And that's a terrible assumption to make. And some of the managers with less gravitas or less security trying to win every single game. Yep. They might put some guy in that they didn't plan to use. They might be down a run or they might be up a run and they weren't going to use this guy, but they're up a run and we got to win this game. So they use a guy not with the big picture in mind. Freddie Gonzalez is trying to save his job, and they might make some bullpen decisions that they would not have made if they have job security.
And then your players don't trust you because you told me I wasn't pitching today and I was the first guy out of the pen.
You got desperate. You're listening to the fans or you're worried about your job. A guy like Bobby Cox had so much gravitas. He knew he was going to get fired. Yeah. He's going to make whatever bullpen decisions he wants to make regardless.
And Snit doesn't have that gravitas, even though he should at this point.
Pretty close now. Yeah,
now. But he doesn't give a shit. I mean,
after winning the World Series, he's pretty damn close to having it.
And it's just funny. I mean, it's because you also be like, well, he's had 3 days off. He's fresh.
Right.
Well, why has he had 3 days off? Because he's nursing something. Right. And, there's always something going on behind the scenes. You got to think about tomorrow. You have to think about how much you rode him last week, and then you got him hot twice the last 2 days, even though he didn't pitch. The guy's thrown 200 pitches off the mound in the last 7 days. I need to give him a break, and I can't use him down 2-0, even though obviously it makes sense to use him there.
And you had, or they say you had an off day Monday and you have another Thursday. Well, maybe they had the off day Monday, so they want to give him Tuesday to have 2 days to recover completely from whatever's, soreness. So, or the off day Thursday, so you don't use a guy Wednesday that you might have used. You want to give him 2 days. So,
yeah,
a lot of things go in. Long story short, there's a lot of things that go into this, and you try to explain that to folks, and it's not that they don't know what they're talking about. It's just they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, because even we don't know, and we're there every day talking to the manager. But if you don't ask specifically about every guy, the manager's not going to offer that usually. They're not going to go, by the way, tonight this guy's not available and this guy's not available. And then after the game, they're not going to go, he wasn't available, because they don't want to throw guys under the bus. They don't want to make a guy look like he's, complaining about a sore arm or whatever.
Right. And the same thing goes for a pinch hitter. Say you got Harper on the bench that day.
Right.
If the other team knows,
that he's not available,
Minter and Matzik are down, he's going to save Harper for the 8th inning to pinch hit.
Right.
But if he knows Minter and Matzik are available that day, he might burn him in the 5th or 6th in a situation that doesn't seem like the best time for him.
Right.
And you're going to get questioned, why did you pinch hit Harper there? It's like, well, if I pinch hit him in the 8th, he's facing Matzik.
Right.
Where he's probably an automatic out if Matzik's locked in. So there's always so much going on that you don't want to tip your hand and say, Matzik's down today, because you want them to burn him early and do things like that.
Absolutely.
So it's really, it's the hardest part of managing is managing the bullpen, and it's the easiest to criticize.
And that's why I like Bochy. He's a legendary manager because he was so good at managing the bullpen,
He sets you up to bring the guy in, I mean, that's what a manager's trying to do, is set you up to get Minter or Matzik against Harper.
Yeah.
Versus, Thornburg or somebody that might not be as good a matchup for him.
Asked Snit whether, a win like that can kind of turn around the mojo that's kind of spinning their wheels lately. And he said, you never know. I mean, you get 2 or 3 good starts after this one, and it sure can. But you just never know when you're going to look back on a game, a big win, and go, that's the one that got you going. And that's happened before also. We saw that happen last year. St. Louis, you talked about that sweep. That was when things started turning. Then at the end, when they got to San Diego, and Will Smith has that incredible bases loaded escape act, that was when you felt like, okay, this team can beat anybody in any venue. And that gave them all that momentum. They go home and finish the Phillies off, win the division, clinch the division, going with all the momentum in the world after winning the division. In the postseason, feeling like they could beat anybody.
Yeah, and that's that's another reason not to really panic early on, is that none of it matters. I mean, you stay in the fight, and if you can get hot going into the postseason, and if you're 3 down in July, nobody remembers. If you're 5 back in August, as long as you get back in it, nobody remembers. But if you can get hot at the right time, which they did last year, you can ride it all the way to the World Series. And that's why players don't panic. And you just, you operate on the mindset, we just got to get our foot in the door. And they're definitely in striking distance.
Especially with the wild card. I mean, I think they're definitely aiming to win the division again. Yeah. There's always the wild card. So you aim for the division, and then that's a fallback. But as long as you stay with the Mets, they're probably going to drag a team into the wild card,
Yeah.
So, nobody remembers, to your point, nobody remembers what happened before the All-Star break last year, except Acuna got hurt after having an MVP type start. Freddie struggled mightily at the first of the season and then caught fire. And Austin Riley didn't have an RBI in like the first 15 games or an extra base hit. And look at he had an MVP type season.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about it all the time. I mean, we're watching these games and analyzing them, and I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
I remember them getting
I only remember because I was writing it,
Yep.
And I've gone back and looked. But I mean, people forget how bad Fried was early last year. He was terrible. He had 2 stints on the IL with a groin and a blister. And you're going, oh man, Fried, that was his best season the year before. Now we're getting back to being Max Fried. And then once he got it straightened out and got his delivery down again, his directional and all that, he was the best pitcher in the majors in the second half.
And that's the beauty of a major league season, is you have so much time to figure it out and for things to click.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to real quick ask if you paid attention to Jackson Stevens, because I got a chance to talk to him the other day and did a story on him. Man, what a refreshing guy to talk to. It's always cool when you get a guy like him, or Matzik. I remember talking to Matzik about his story. You feel so good for them because they're like guys who have gone through some serious shit where it looked like their careers were over, and they persevered. And usually there's somebody behind the scenes that helped them persevere. And in both their cases, Matzik and Jackson Stevens, it was the wife. Matzik had the yips, was out of baseball altogether for for a full year, and out of the majors for 5 years, was pitching in Indy ball for 2 years. When he was out of baseball altogether and living at home with his wife in California, his wife is the one that said, "Don't give it up yet. You're too young. You got to try at least." That's why he did it. Well, Jackson Stevens the same way. He got bit by the COVID situation in that he had got DFA'd by the Reds at the end of 2019, which is the worst time that anybody could get DFA'd by anybody. Because then in 2020, he's waiting for a phone call right in the offseason.
Yeah.
And COVID hits in the middle of spring training, shuts down spring training when he might have got a call from somebody, at least a minor league deal going into the season. So there's no minor league season. So teams aren't calling anybody for those. They're using their own guys, their minor league prospects at the alternate site and their fringe guys, but they're not adding guys to the minor league rosters.
Right.
So he sits out an entire year after pitching a little bit in the big leagues with the Reds in 17 and 18 and pitching all year in 2019, AAA, and just having a mediocre year. Sits out all year in 2020. So he's forgotten for all intents and purposes. He hadn't pitched in the big leagues in 2 years. He's waiting again by the phone that winter, gets no calls from big league teams. Only call he gets is from a Mexican league team.
Man.
Now, if you pitched in the big leagues a couple of years, you're in your mid-late 20s. That's when you have to go, all right, you're married, but they don't have kids, which worked out for them because that would have been a lot harder, I think.
So much better.
Right. You don't have kids. But, that's when you're going, do I really want to go down and pitch? You don't speak Spanish. Do I want to go down and pitch in a Mexican independent league? That was the only call he got, and he wasn't going to do it. He's a small-town Alabama guy, He's never been outside the country except for like a week vacation with his family. And his wife is the one that said, if you don't do it, you're going to regret it. You're too young still, and you still too much talent. You haven't been hurt. You haven't had TJ surgery. Give it a shot at least. She's the only reason that he did it. And he went down there, pitched in Mexico, pitched well enough, had a really high strikeout rate. The ERA didn't really matter because that's a hitter's league. Big strikeout to walks rate, like the best he'd had in his career. Pitched well enough that Yepez with the Braves, the bullpen catcher, Yepez we call him Yepez. He's the bullpen catcher. He is a GM of a Venezuelan winter league team, which hardly anybody even knows if they're not in the bullpen. But he's done it for like 7 years.
Yep.
Well, he got some videos sent to him going, "Hey, this guy's pretty good. He can probably help you." Yepez signed him to come down to Venezuela, talk to him. He said, "I can help you out with speaking the language, all that stuff." And one of their catchers was William Contreras, who the Braves sent down there to get more at bats after he didn't get a lot of bats last year. So he goes down there. Long story short, he's the Venezuelan pitcher of the year. And it was the starter. After making like 3 bullpen appearances, they put him in the rotation. Pitched great. Had like a mid-1 ERA, good strikeout to walks ratio. And Yepez tells AA, "Hey, this guy could help us. We could put him in AA, AAA, have a slot ready, in case he's needed at some point." The Braves give him a shot, sign him to a minor league deal, no major league spring training invite. Benefited by having the lockout because he can go to minor league camp when the major league pitchers are not doing anything. He goes to minor league camp, pitches really well in a AAA minor league game. Then the lockout ends. The Braves remember they started Bryce Elder in their first grade for the league game because they needed guys who'd been pitching.
Yeah.
Camp had only been open like 3 days. So the major league guys, they didn't want to use that early. So they let Jackson Stevens pitch in the second game. Gave up a couple runs, but again impressed. And Snit had seen him in that AAA minor league game too, and in the big league game. So when your guy, your reliever that we both liked a lot, but struggled early, and they DFA'd him in the first week. Webb got DFA'd the first week. They call him up. So at the end of the first week, they add him to the major league roster, and he comes in a big league team. Gives up a couple of runs. He pitches that night as cleanup duty. He pitched like 2 or 3 innings and gave up a couple of runs. But since then, this guy has pitched his ass off. And everybody in the pen is like, Darren O'Day's like, I don't even know how he was over there that long because this guy can make the ball move any way he wants to make it move. And Colin Mchugh also pitched in Venezuela like 8 years ago and had the same thing happen to him. He said, I pitched down there like 3 weeks. And it was a springboard. Then Houston signed him, and he had his breakout season with Houston in the rotation.
Yep. So
he said, I know what that's like, man, to go down there and pitch, be in a foreign country, not know anybody. But it's like you're at the bottom, and you realize, as Jackson Stevens said, I realized my back's against the wall. He goes, it's not like I didn't want to take advantage of the opportunity with the Reds because I pitched my butt off and tried to be the best pitcher I could, but my back wasn't against the wall. Here, I felt like my back was against the wall. He came in and signed a minor league deal with the Braves. He was thrilled because he grew up pulling for them to a small town in Alabama, Oxford, Alabama. So the Braves give him a chance. He felt like this is it. This is my last chance. I need to make the most of it, and this guy's pitched great, and he's worked his way up into a more prominent role, and now the Braves are really relying on him. And he's got really good stuff, too. I mean, he's out there. He's pitching. He's not like a guy that's just getting by on guile.
He's pitching. I admire it so much because it's a big ego hit, and it was something that probably would have been toward the end of my career. The thing I needed was to go pitch in an easier league.
Yeah.
And find myself again, but I kept making major league rosters, and I needed to ditch the sinker. I needed to start throwing four seams because the game had changed, but I couldn't swallow my pride and go put on a AAA uniform.
Yeah.
And I admire guys that are willing to do that, swallow your pride and go play the damn game again and figure yourself out at this lower level. And you in the Mexican league and you think of yourself as this big leaguer and I'm, that's where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And you're in the Mexican league. I don't know what it's like down there, but I guarantee they're not getting private planes.
Oh,
they're not chartering a jet. They're probably riding in some shitty bus.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to, the guys that are willing to do that and it pays off, I couldn't be happier for, because a lot of guys with big league time aren't willing to do it. And it's kind of what you have to do and go through to, one, appreciate the major leagues again and appreciate your opportunity, but to also go down there and get better and pitch against a little easier hitting, where you can get away with some mistakes and fine tune some things and get better. And, for me at that point in my career, I was mentally just burnt out from injuries and stuff like that. But I look back still to this day, I look back and I'm like, you know what if you would have just swallowed your pride and I could have played another 5 years. But I wasn't willing to do it. Now I'm doing a podcast, so the guys that are willing to do that and it works out for them, they swallow their pride, they go down and just figure it out. And they have that fight in them. I really admire.
He had a 4.98 ERA in Mexico, 12 games, 11 starts. But somebody told me, that ego or the ERA doesn't mean that much because it is a hitter's league. Kind of like that.
Like the PCL.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Small ballparks, low humidity, some altitude. But get this, I didn't even know this team existed that he pitched for. He pitched for a team called Dos Laredos. And you know why they're called Dos Laredos?
Why?
Because they play their games at two different places. One in Mexico, a Laredo over there. It's called something. I wrote the name. It's called Laredo, Mexican name over there. And Laredo, Texas. They play in two stadiums. They're the only bi-national team in pro baseball or any level baseball. Ugh. So he got to live in Laredo, but all the other games are in Mexico except for the Laredo team. Right. But they're traveling all over the Mexico in buses and, crappy ballparks and stuff. And so he had 69 strikeouts and 16 walks in 65 innings in Mexico. It's the highest strikeout rate since rookie ball in 2012 when he was 3 months out of high school because he got drafted out of high school. 18th round pick out of high school. But Jose Yepez, Braves bullpen catcher, got some film of him. Jose Yepez is with Cardinals de Lara in the Cardinals in Venezuela. Pretty big team down there. They play in Barquisimeto, Venezuela. And I asked Jackson what that was like, and he goes, well, I lived in a hotel that was attached to a mall. He goes, I never went anywhere except the ballpark and the hotel, and I'd go over and eat in the food court every meal, and I'd sit there alone eating, and people would walk by and look at me and go, he's not from here.
Yeah,
he's got
what is this
beard.
big
big bearded Alabama boy with a gut, And he's over there eating in the food court. He knew enough Spanish to order his food, and that was it. But he said they went into a Mexican restaurant when he first got there, and he went in and ordered queso, and they're like, what
just
the hell's
cheese?
Queso? And they go, dude, we don't order that here. That's American Mexican food. And he goes, okay, salsa? They go, yeah, we got that.
Well, yeah. But I just think that's what I'm saying. Swallow your pride, because you're going from, you have these clubbies washing your cars for you and bringing you food, and you're flying on these private jets. You're getting paid all this money. And now you're playing for Dos Laredo ordering salsa at a mall. You know, I mean, you have to you really have to put your ego aside and just wear it, grind through it. And I'm glad he did. You know, I'm always happy for these guys that it works for.
14 games in Venezuela, including 9 starts. He had a 1.82 ERA, 44 strikeouts, 10 walks, and 49 innings. And the thing is, in Venezuela, you're pitching against some guys that have been in the big leagues and some guys that are savvy hitters. A lot of guys that will play a little bit in the big leagues, and they'll go down to those winter leagues and play for another 15 years. They might be 40 years old and have a gut, but they can hit still.
Yeah. Yeah, you know? They don't have any range in the outfield, and they don't care down there.
They can hit. They just hit. They still rake. So you got to be able to pitch down there. And that's what Jose Yepez said. Yepez said, I've had so many guys come down there, American guys, and he goes, and they can't pitch. They think they can come in and they can't pitch because you got to be able to pitch down there. And that's why he really impressed him. And he called AA. He called Alex and said, this guy can help us. He just didn't know it was going to be that soon, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, he comes in and he gave up let's see, against the Mets in that first appearance. His first 2 appearances, he gave up 3 runs. And since then, nothing. He just turned 28 Wednesday, by the way.
That's cool. Good for him.
Yeah, the Braves have done that now twice in 3 years, have come up with a guy like that, like from Indy ball. In Matzek's case, it was a nothing league down in Texas where he'd been for the 2nd year. So that's good scouting when you got and having good tips and good connections to people, you know.
And Yepez was a catcher, so you know he's gonna know. He can watch a bullpen and know if a guy's got good stuff or not. And he probably jumped in and caught him. You know, that's one of the benefits of being a former catcher.
Right. I had no idea that Yepez had been doing that for 7 years.
Oh, Yepez the man.
What a winter job, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, Yepez the man.
So anyway, that story's at The Athletic. You guys should look at it. The guy's a really likable dude. He's and he can thank Brittany Stevens, his wife. She's a neonatal intensive care unit nurse in Birmingham. And she's the one that said, do it. You're going to regret it if you don't give it another try. Otherwise, I said, what would you be doing right now? Coaching or something? Because I don't know, man. Running a school, a baseball school, or coaching at my old high. I have no idea. Because he went out of high school. He was drafted out of high school, no college, you know.
Well, it's tough. You get out in the real world, you realize, you know, even for me, it's like I don't have any life skills. I don't have any way to make money now.
Podcasting skills.
That's all I got. Even basic stuff like learning.
Fortunately, you made a little money.
Yeah,
you didn't make any money.
I'm good, but yeah, it's but that's another reason why guys go down there, because you can go down to Venezuela and make 20 grand a month.
Right.
You know, if you're a minor league up and down guy,
yeah,
you made maybe 100 grand kind of bouncing between, and then you go down to Venezuela and make 40 in 2 months.
Right.
So a lot of guys do it just for the money.
So now he's making, you know, millions and millions less than the other guys in that bullpen, but he's making over 600 grand. And for a guy that would have been out of baseball, that's damn.
You're not making
money,
that
man.
Anywhere else.
No. and first class travel and not needing any money during the season, really, you know.
You get done playing and you start poking around at jobs, and you know, you're used to getting a $40,000 check every 2 weeks, and somebody offers you 50 for the whole year. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's a little different out here.
It's nice when you got a wife with a good job too, you know, that can tell you, go down there. I can take care of it here until you get back.
Well, that's huge.
Yeah. So
and
anyway.
No kids.
All right. Well, another big series for the Braves this weekend. Got the Padres, man. Padres in town. I wish Tatis was playing. We don't get to see Tatis Acuna once again. But the Padres are playing good ball, though. They got a good team.
Yeah.
Machado's playing great.
There's going to be some strikeouts tonight. Fried and Darvish.
Yeah, what a good matchup. Yeah. And then we got Sunday, dude. Something I never thought I'd see in the big leagues. We got an AM game, other than the Boston, you know, the connected to the marathon, the game they play every year.
11:30?
11:30 start. It was 1:30. Nope, Peacock. They're doing it for Peacock Network. They're covering some games this year.
Those guys are going to be so mad.
Why Peacock wanted to start games at 11:30 on a Sunday, I have no idea. But they apparently think that that's what they need to do. But, I mean, 11:30 on a Sunday.
You do it in the minor leagues. They have kids day,
right?
or maybe like a weekday. They'll let all the kids out of school, and it's like a 10 a.m. game. But you're not even awake till the 4th inning.
So some of the younger guys that have been in the minors in recent years might
They'll do
have
better.
done that. Might have done that, but some of the veterans are going to be like, "What? They don't even start spring training games for one."
Who's pitching?
It's a good matchup.
Oh,
that's
Kyle's
Kyle Wright.
pitching.
That's
Yeah,
Kyle
he's
Wright.
spent some time in the bushes the last few
Yeah.
years, so
Oh,
he
yeah.
might be able to handle it.
Oh, he's played some of those games for sure. He's the
Yeah.
best guy to probably do that if you're going to have one of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's played a few of those. So that's going to be interesting. Got a 4:00 game Saturday, then a 10. Man, it's not like it used to be where you could just look and count on every game starting at the same time every night. The Braves had a stretch recently where they played like 8 straight games at 8 different times.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah. Anyway, they got the 3 games here, and then you got a tough road trip, man. You go to Milwaukee and you go to Miami, and the Marlins ain't messing around. They're right there with the Braves.
Miami's just like Milwaukee. I get it. You know, they've had some pretty good teams the last few years. The Hitters Park is a tough place to play, but the Marlins could be 0-40 right now.
And they give the Braves fits.
Going to Miami for whatever reason it's not as much of a clown ballpark as it used to be. But when you had like the Clevelanders just blasting music in left field, there's 6 fans in the stadium, and they got that dance crew just going ape shit the whole game.
I tell you what, it's still very different. It's still not many people there at all. They play the music really loud, and it rattles off that roof when it's closed.
It's a weird place.
It's a totally unusual environment, and it's different.
You never know how you're going to play or what you're going to get there. It's one of those ones you just kind of get through.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's where Acuna is going back for the first time since he hurt his knee there. So it's going to be Acuna and Chisholm. To me, the 2 most, I said this, I tweeted this the other day, the 2 most dynamic players in the division. And I know we got Soto in the division and Bryce Harper, and Soto's maybe the best pure hitter, all-around hitter in baseball. But I will take Chisholm and Acuna for dynamic guys to watch. If I was paying for season tickets, those 2 guys are as good as it gets, man.
I just don't know how Chisholm has so much power. He's not a very big guy.
He reminds me so much of Alfonso Soriano.
Yeah, that's a good comp for the power and
that's
body.
The guy, the wiry body. Then Soriano had the 30-30 season. Remember, he was hitting bombs.
Opposite field, yeah.
How about the home run that Chisholm hit at Arizona the other day?
I couldn't believe it.
To the left of center line drive. It was this far off the ground.
That's what I mean.
That guy's phenomenal.
That's a ball that Adam Dunn hits. A guy that's 6'5", 240, not a guy that's I think he's probably 6 foot 180.
Oh, yeah. He's phenomenal. He's so talented. He's got so much bounce. You know who he reminds me of, too? Go out of baseball. Ja Morant. The way he moves, just bounces. He's like 160 pounds of fast twitch muscles, And he's got a great arm. He can play the field, too.
Yeah. He's a good player.
Yeah, between him and Acuna, man, those are 2 guys that if I wasn't covering the sport, those are 2 guys I would love to have season tickets to watch because you don't ever know. They're going to do something every night.
You know what else is funny is like, you're getting older and the game's been a certain way for so long. And, Chisholm always has this pink hair.
Blue hair, pink hair. Yeah.
My son's got his baseball card and they went crazy.
Oh, yeah. They love him.
Like kids love these guys.
They love the small guys, too.
Yeah, exactly.
They can
like
identify with
or somebody, but that's why it's like my perspective totally shifted on all this old school, new school stuff since I had kids because they pulled a Mike Trout and they just looked at it like, is this guy good, Dad? Right. Then they got the guy with the pink hair and they just lost it. Like I can't believe I got this card.
Well, I'm old, man, and I look at it and I would rather watch. Seriously, I know Trout is the best all around player, probably still. He's having a great year too. He's having the year we talked about. He's going to have. He's having it. If I was going to pay, I would pay to see Acuna and Chisholm before Trout.
And Soto. Yeah.
Before Trout. And Trout is great, but Chisholm is so dynamic, man. Yeah. And he's so flamboyant and the charisma.
Yeah.
And I love watching it, man. I love watching it.
That's the battle for MLB. It's like these guys that have all these mannerisms now, but they're trying to appeal to kids.
I love watching him. And it'd be different if he wasn't as talented as he is, but he's legitimate. Like if he was a boring player. If he was
your Donnie Valdez spin. Remember him?
Right. If he just played totally boring vanilla, what he does would still be incredible because you look at his numbers. He's a great player. But when you add all the Euro step at the end of every home run and the hair and just the talking track, I love him. I love this guy.
It's hard for me, but I gotta. It's
him and Acuna,
in a way, it's good for the game.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want everybody doing that. You wouldn't want everybody wearing the clothes. Like you wouldn't want all the Braves wearing all the yellow that Acuna does because it wouldn't
That's
look
where
right.
we're headed, though. It's going to turn into
looks
baseball.
Great on Acuna. Well, if you could be one of the best 5 players in a game like Acuna, wear whatever the hell you want. But if
at
you're
least
just
be good if you're going to do that stuff.
But if you're an average player,
calm down.
Then just dress with a uniform on. We don't need any
black cleats. Go up on time.
Yeah, we don't need accessories from you.
Yeah,
we don't need accessories. Leave that for the great players.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I agree.
All right, that's it. 7:55 is real. We'll talk to you guys next week early.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.